Am I the asshole for fat shaming my roommate because she wouldn't stop talking about how fat America is? I, 25, am an American who has been living in London for about 6 months now. My roommate B, 23 female, has been nice for the most part, and I've even come to enjoy her company. My only issue is that she's always taking jabs at America. To clarify, I don't think America is above criticism, and I have no problem shooting shit from time to time. When I first met her, I would laugh along, and I didn't feel any type of way about it. However, it's become too frequent, and as time has gone on, I've started to notice an obnoxious air of superiority every time she does this, which really makes me feel like it's not at all in good fun anymore. She'll even refuse to believe me if I correct her when she says something untrue, i.e., when she said Americans are all stupid because all of our tests are multiple choice. I told her that wasn't true, and she insisted the schools that I went to must be different from most schools in America. I tried to go along with it as I don't want to be an overly sensitive person, but it's starting to get on my nerves. All of my frustrations came to a head last night when she started talking about how disgusting it was that America is so fat, a topic that I've heard her talk about many times. I was in a bad mood, and I tried my best to ignore her, but she just kept going. I've always had to bite my tongue when she talks about America's obesity epidemic because B is overweight herself. I finally snapped and stopped biting my tongue and said, "Don't you think this is a little ironic?" She gave me a confused look and asked why I would think that, to which I replied, "Well, I'm an American, and I'm a lot thinner than you. This conversation would make more sense if you were the thin one." She absolutely exploded and told me I had no right to make comments about her body. After that, she locked herself in her room, and now she refuses to talk to me. I've made some beef stew for dinner tonight as a peace offering, but she still won't acknowledge my presence. I do feel bad about hurting her feelings, but I also feel like she shouldn't dish it out if she can't take it.
Am I the asshole for cutting off my stepmom for wearing white to my wedding? It's because it's not my story time. I said I mean on Instagram. My stepmom has always wanted me to think of her as my bestie. She's like a cool mom, you know? When my parents got divorced, it was pretty amicable. There was very little drama, and I appreciated that because my parents didn't want me to grow up in an environment where I had to choose between them. My mom remarried, and I love my stepdad. He's like a second dad to me. He also has a lot of money, so he pays for everything. Father and my stepdad actually get along really, really well. They both paid for my wedding. 30 years old, and I got married to my best friend. Planning of our wedding was seamless because I had a great wedding planner. And like I said, my husband's parents and my parents paid for everything. We had a healthy budget for the wedding. My stepmom early on wanted to get involved, and she was trying to pick out really expensive things for the wedding. For the wedding, we actually didn't want to spend more than around $30,000. We wanted to spend more money on traveling for our honeymoon, but my stepmom started inviting herself to every single meeting I had with the wedding planner. My husband was very involved, so him and I basically chose everything together. Whenever my mom would come, she would try to come too. This is when she started trying to pick out the most expensive flowers, the most expensive cake, and flavors that we didn't even like, and then she would insist on us picking those things. Every single time she did something, I would complain to my mom. My mom would just subtly let her know that we weren't going to choose those things, that we were trying to stay within a small budget. That's when she started complaining that we should have a bigger budget. That seeing as how all of the parents were pitching in, our budget should be around $100,000. When she said this to me and my husband, we both looked at each other and laughed. We explained to her that instead of having a huge, ginormous wedding, we wanted to prioritize our honeymoon. We had planned to go island hopping in Greece and spend time in the south of France. And of course, we would prefer to stay in beautiful, luxurious hotels. So she said that we were being selfish, that we were going to deprive our families of the wedding that we all deserved, and that the wedding experience should be magical and huge, and that no expense should be spared. Couldn't believe that she was saying those things. She sounded so stupid. I walked straight to my dad and I explained to him that he needed to control her and ask her to please stay away. Dad told me that he couldn't do that because if he did, she would get upset. Every single time family is involved in any situation in any of these story times, someone's always going to get their feelings hurt, and that's why people don't speak up. Once my dad insisted on not telling her, I had to do it myself. I told her for the rest of the wedding planning, my husband and I would take care of everything. This is when she starts to cry. Dad finally opened his mouth and explained to her that it was just best for everyone. Then she tried to guilt trip me. She told me that her and I had been best friends for decades, which is so not true. She said she likes for me to think of her as my best friend. She's not my bestie. She stormed off, and then my dad made me go apologize to her, which I did. And this is the thing I regret the most. What she did next is so unbelievably rude. You're just gonna have to go to part 2. Am I the hassle for cutting off my stepmom for wearing white to my wedding? This is not my story time instead of me on Instagram. This is when I apologized for asking her to stay out of my wedding. This is the biggest mistake I made. This made her feel like she could do whatever she wanted. The good thing is she did stay out of the wedding planning, but the bad thing is that she actually succeeded in making me feel guilty. Even went as far as to tell my dad that I had never heard her this way before. For the rest of the wedding planning, whenever she knew that we were going to go meet with the planner, she would just mope around my dad's house and ask me what we decided on afterwards. Because I'm so nice, I actually decided to tell her what we were choosing, but of course, every single time I showed her something, she would start to criticize. At this point, my husband put his foot down and forbade me from showing her anything because he would see how I would react every time she told me something. Finally, the day of the wedding arrives. We landed on a beautiful cake. The venue was small, but it was so beautiful, and we had every single thing we ever wanted. The entire family came over to get ready with me. This is where all the drama started. I had one bridesmaid who wore lavender, and my mother who wore lavender as well. I told my stepmom that I would prefer her to wear lavender since she is my stepmom, but I told her she could pretty much wear any color she wanted. For the end of us getting ready, I noticed someone in white out of the corner of my eye. I was getting the final touches on my makeup, so I really couldn't open my eyes. I initially thought it was like somebody from the service. Then that's when I hear my mom gasp. I quickly open my eyes and see my stepmom standing in front of me, dressed in a full white gown. It didn't look like a wedding dress, but it was a gown. I guess to be more specific, it was cream colored. My dress was white, but with a hint of lavender. I couldn't help it and I asked her, "Why are you wearing white?" She then looked around to the entire wedding party and said, "You told me I could wear whatever color I wanted." My mom could not help herself. I told her that everyone knows wearing white to a wedding is inappropriate. My stepmom told me that we were just reading too much into it. But I was clearly upset. I told my dad he had no idea that she was wearing white, so she obviously didn't tell him because he would have told her not to. Thankfully, the wedding was fun and everything went off without a hitch, but after the wedding, I completely cut her off. I sent her a message telling her that she crossed several lines and that there was no way I could have her in my life after this. My mom and even my dad agreed with this, and my dad basically told her that she needed to stand down. She's been texting me and calling me nonstop, and I just blocked her. Am I overreacting? Wedding pictures look great, except for the fact that my stepmom is in a white dress. My husband wants me to just get over it because it's family drama, but I think I should stand my ground.
My husband shaved my head. Me, 31 female, and husband, 30 male, have been married for 3 years and together for 5 years before getting married. We've always had a healthy, harmonious relationship, or so I thought, and welcomed our daughter 3 months ago. Yesterday morning, we were getting ready in the bathroom. My husband was shaving next to me while I was brushing my teeth. Out of nowhere, he takes the electric razor and runs it through my head, shaving a part of my hair just above my forehead.
Oh my God.
First, I thought he was pretending to do it, but then I saw a big chunk of my hair falling into the sink. I didn't get a complete bald spot, but the damage is clearly visible. It's important to know that I've always had long hair reaching to the mid of my back, never cut it short, never alone got a buzz cut. My husband likes my long hair too, and never told me to get a different haircut. I totally freaked out and started crying and yelling at him while he was laughing. He told me it was just a prank and how it wasn't a big deal, it's just hair, and that I could grow back again. We had a serious fight afterwards, and in the end, he did apologize, admitting that he was the asshole, but still insisting that it was a prank and it was funny, at least to him.
No.
Although he apologized, I still cannot forgive him. I will either need to wear a hat or a scarf, or brush my hair over, or get bangs, which I normally wouldn't do due to my face shape, to cover the damaged area. It will take years to grow out my hair again to its current length. However, what I'm most concerned about is that he still insists that it was funny. I just don't get why he would laugh at my misery. It seems borderline sadistic and abusive to me. I'm also afraid that he would do something like this to me again in the future, or even to our daughter, because he finds it funny. I don't think I will ever be able to forgive or trust him, and I'm seriously considering getting a divorce. On the other hand, he's never done anything like this before. It seems totally out of character. He isn't a prankster and has never made fun of me. Neither did we have any marital problems nor big fights, not even after the birth of our daughter. Until I make up my mind, I don't want to talk to my friends or family about this, as I don't want to be pressured into deciding either way or being judged if I don't take their advice. Should I stay with him or divorce him over this?
Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend to stop competing with a ghost? My 25 meters, father, deceased, studied to be a chef but life got in the way and had to do something else, but he kept his cooking skills. Every Saturday or Sunday, he prepared us a 5-course meal for the family. We, family, are not that good, but we get together at least 2 times a month and cook some of the dishes that he used to prepare for us. My girlfriend, 26F, also likes to cook and she is very good at it. She has been part of said tradition, as a guest, and knows the many plates my father made for us. Now, for the past 6 months she has invited me to eat at her house. She has made every said plates. I didn't find it strange at the beginning, but after a couple of times, every time that she asked me how it was, no matter how much I tell her that it was very good, she somehow ends up dissatisfied with my answer. I have asked her what the issue was but got no answer. A few days ago, she made my favorite dish and dessert. After I basically stuffed my face, she asked me how it was and I told her it was freaking delicious. She started with how delicious? I answered her with 30 different ways of delicious, and she was still not satisfied. Then she asked the question, better than your dad's? And I understood why she was not satisfied. This is what I said to her and what possibly makes me the asshole. Please don't do that because I will never compare the two of you. Your food is delicious. I mean, I eat half a pot in one sit of how good it was. But if you want me to tell you that you are better than my old man, I'm sorry but it won't happen, and it's not because of the level of your cuisine but for the mere fact that you are not my old man. You're good on your own right. I look forward to eating your food just as much as I did every weekend he cooked for us. He's gone, please stop competing with a ghost because you're fighting a losing battle. She ended up kicking me out and things have been icy between us. Update. Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend to stop competing with a ghost? I spoke with my ex-girlfriend the day after I made the post. The first thing she did was to apologize for her behavior. A stern talk from her parents and also from her therapist made her realize that she was acting out of pure jealousy. She told me that she was going to have 2 sessions a week and suggested couples therapy. We talked more in depth and I decided to not break up with her for the moment. I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt and my life was already hectic with work. I wanted to wait to be in a better headspace. We communicated only through calls and messages, but we were on standby until new information came to light. A few days ago one of my brothers called me for a work consultation and to have dinner with them. During dinner they asked me how things were going and I told them that we were talking more but things were still on the fence. That's when my sister-in-law told me something that happened between them. Sills get together once a week and my ex was included. She said that months ago, just before her behavior started, my ex suggested to them about taking over our family dinners. I'm not talking about them cooking the day or hosting the dinner at their houses. No, I'm talking about completely erasing the whole thing. Sills refused and told her that the dinner was important for them too. They like it and if she had a problem, to talk to me. My ex-girlfriend still tried to push the idea a few more times until my Sills got tired and stopped inviting her to hang out with them and stopped talking with her, but they stayed civil. I talked with my other Sills that night and they confirmed the whole thing. The next day I called my ex-girlfriend telling her that we needed to talk. We met at her parents' house and I went straight to the point. I told her that I found out what she tried to do, she confirmed, and I broke up with her.
Am I the arsehole for not wanting a relationship with my parents now that they've cut me off? Story time. So my parents do pretty well, and when I was going through the student finance system, I found out that I could only get the lowest amount because of how much money they earn, which is just over £3,000 a year. I just find it so bizarre that there's this assumption that your parents will just help you out, like some people don't get that. I'm on a high intensity course, right? And I wasn't too sure how I was going to juggle schooling, working, studying. So when I found out about how much money I was entitled to, I told my parents that I would rather take the next year. I would rather take the next year off and save up and go to my first choice school or go to my second choice school now. I just would not be able to afford to live in the city that my first choice was in. So where is my parents said that they would pay for my rent if I went to my first choice school on schedule, aka this year, which I was like, brilliant, works for the both of us. So they set me up in this gorgeous studio apartment in the city. So all I would have to do now is get a little part-time job to cover the cost of food and bills. Then 2 months ago, they called me and told me that they thought I was relying on them too much. They said that they felt it was about time that I find out what the real world was like and that I find my own way. They said that they were going to cover me till the end of the month, and then after that, I was on my own. They said that they were still my parents and that they loved me and they hoped that we could stay in touch as much as possible. So now I had 11 days notice of when my rent would be stopped being paid, my phone bill would stop being paid. I went to my uni and begged them to help me with some emergency housing, but they said I had no proof that my parents had actually cut me off. So I emailed my parents asking if they could write an email to the school to tell them that they had actually cut me off financially. They said no. I asked work if I could pick up more shifts to help pay, but they said due to my contract they couldn't give me anything. So I am now sleeping on my best friend's sofa and I'm looking for a second job. I hadn't heard anything from them in a little while actually, and then on Facebook I got a message from my dad saying that they were both really disappointed that I hadn't called for my mum's birthday. Oh, are you disappointed? So am I. So I just gave it to them straight. I was like, listen, you've done me so dirty. I can't have a relationship with people that disrespect me and leave me in the position that you have left me in. I'm getting a bunch of messages from them. My brother's even got involved and asking if I could reconsider my decision. And my friend is saying that I shouldn't feel bad, but I feel so bloody guilty. So what do you think? Am I in the wrong here? Am I the arsehole for telling a pregnant woman to sit on the ground instead of giving up my seat? Story time. My nephews both graduated from high school this morning. We're both really, really close with each other, so I wanted to sit right at the front. I did a bit of an embarrassing thing and I camped out for a little bit of the morning. I just bought my folding camping chair. I watched some little Netflix things whilst I was waiting. So about 40 minutes before the school opened, a pregnant woman came up next to me. She did somewhat push in, but she was with a guy who I am assuming is like her partner. And within 5 minutes of being stood there, she asked me if she could have my chair. And she made it quite clear that she was going to have trouble to stand for the whole time. And I was like, no, sorry, I kind of need it more. For context, I'd had some surgery on both of my knees not too long ago, and then 2 minutes later, she asked me the same thing again. So again, I gave her the same answer. She then asked me every 2 or 3 minutes after that, and I'm not gonna lie, it was getting very, very annoying. Even to the point where she asked her partner to tell me to give up my chair. Like, oh no, her man's asked me now, I must give it up. Oh, weirdo. At this point, I stopped problem solving for this couple, and I'm like, maybe you could go and sit in the car. And this is when her partner just straight up calls me an arsehole. But to be fair, after this, he did just leave me alone. So what do you think? Am I the arsehole here?
My boyfriend wants to move in with me. I want him to live alone first. My boyfriend and I have been together 10 months. He lives with his parents and younger brothers. Before current events, he was over my place basically every night. A couple nights ago, he said that he wants to move in with me, if I'm up for it. I've been to his place more than once, and I've seen how their dynamic works. His mother does everything for all 5 men in that house. Cooking, cleaning, the works. Basically all they have to do is put their laundry away after she washes/dries/irons/folds it. The reason the parents aren't forcing them to contribute is that this was the parents' agreement. He works, she's a stay-at-home, so she raises the kids/runs the household and he pays for everything, with one of the clauses being that if she's doing everything there's no need to involve the boys. As a result, my boyfriend cannot do anything. I don't know how much of this is actual cluelessness and how much is he trying to get out of stuff, but he has told me, completely sincerely, and I checked this with his mother, that he can't even fry an egg. Which is why, when my boyfriend suggested moving in together, I said I wanted him to live alone first. His plan was basically to go straight from his mother's house to my flat. I told him my hesitation, which is that he can't do chores. He then offered to pay more rent, 75%, in exchange for me doing all the chores. I said no. I don't want to be his mother, or his maid, I want to be his girlfriend. Then I told him I wanted him to live alone. Go from his mother's house to his own place, figure out how to do all the things he's never done for himself, learn some basic life skills, and then revisit us living together. This has caused a huge argument, the biggest we've ever had. He's taken me saying he has no life skills as an insult, which it kind of was to be fair, and has basically said that clearly I don't want to live with him at all as I've pushed the moving in time back and have only said we'd revisit after a few months of him living alone, and I did say revisit because I wanted to make sure he actually knew what he was doing and wouldn't immediately switch back to offering more rent for no chores. This was all a couple nights ago and he's just stopped talking to me. He's at his mum's, he's online, he's talking to mutual friends who have said he is responding, he just won't answer any of my calls/texts. He's told our friends what happened and they're all on his side, saying I was really mean/cruel. I love him, and I do want to live with him eventually, I just don't want to live with him if I'm doing everything, and the one thing I don't want is him paying extra for me to do all the housework. Is there some sort of compromise, or some option I'm not seeing? What can I do to fix this? My son stole a rare toy from my brother. My brother is refusing to take it back and is threatening to get the police involved. What do I do? Right now my brother is threatening to sue me for my son taking a figure from his collection and getting the police involved. Here is the story. Last week my brother invited me and my family over for dinner. While we were there my son asked to see my brother's collection of toys and figures. My brother has spent a good deal of money on his collection and from what I know it's one of his biggest hobbies. Well, after dinner we left and everything seemed normal. Well, until yesterday. My brother called me up furiously and told me my little poop stole something from his collection and I needed to return it immediately. I honestly was upset at this, but if my son had taken something that was wrong, especially if it was from my own brother. Well, it turns out that my son slipped away during dinner and took a Boba Fett figure from his collection. He confirmed it because he has footage from his porch camera of him taking it out to our car. I was furious and took it from him. Here is the problem though, after I confirmed with my brother it was his I found out that my son had removed it from its packaging. Apparently the figure is worth almost $2,000 in its package and almost nothing out of it. So my brother broke down over the phone and refused to take it back before hanging up. Well, he just called me again today and said he wanted me to pay for a replacement immediately or he will get the police involved and sue me. I told him I would help pay for one but not fully, to which he said not good enough and hung up. Honestly, what are my options here? I can't afford to pay him back right now. If he does go to the police, will my son get arrested? He's only 15. It was very wrong of him to do, but I think my brother is overreacting. What can I expect if he does take me to court or call the police?